Hi, welcome to the second video in the Family Project. I'm John Paul Flintoff. I've been helping people to tell their family stories for a very long time, but I want to tell you about someone else who's involved. I'm not sure if I can turn the camera around, turn it around. One sec. I just want to have a little look in the boot because I think I'm going to find among all the things like fishing rods evidence of something. Oh yeah, here we go, this is perfect. Okay, under the Wellington boot, Guardian Family, just one of the sections of the Guardian newspaper that we have, but the Guardian Family is edited by my brilliant wife Harriet. In this workshop, I'm going to show you how you can start a very simple project so that you can share your family story in a way that people are actually interested to hear it. And at the same time, you can do a creative exercise with the people you love. If you missed the first video, I think you should go and watch it because I shared in that video how you can create a family heirloom out of what seems like very simple bits of storytelling and audio maybe, and maybe some photographs, so that you're creating a bit of treasure that future generations will really value. So if you haven't watched it, I think you should go off and watch it now, and I'll stay here and wait for you. Now, you may be looking to write and publish a stunning family memoir, and I work with people who do that, but you may alternatively just be looking for a fun, fairly informal project to do with your family during the holidays. In each case, you're going to want to know how to do it in such a way that you actually get people interested. In this second video, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can take advantage of the sort of secret that gives so much power to programs in the BBC series, Who Do You Think You Are? And it's not really a secret because it's there in plain view, but most people don't notice it. So I think you're going to find this really interesting and very valuable. We'll be covering quite a lot of ground, so I think it would be a good idea if you download the PDF below this video and take notes as you follow along. So on Who Do You Think You Are? You have people who you may or may not have heard of before. They're quite famous people, and they have an army of researchers and genealogists looking into their distant ancestors. People who they frankly probably didn't even know existed before, let alone care about. People who are dead. So I sometimes watch it and I think, why do they care about those people who they didn't even know about before, who are dead, long gone? Why do they care about them? It's almost like me getting really worried about the people who live a mile away. They have no connection with me. But because someone says that there's a connection, then I'm interested. Now, in the UK, relatively recently, we've had episodes where people who are famously quite tough and hard, like newsreaders, like Jeremy Paxman is a very tough interviewer, had tears in his eyes when he found out stories about his relatives living in Glasgow. I think it was Glasgow. And J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter novels, found out something about one of her ancestors in the First World War. And she was very moved by that. And Amelia Fox, the actress, she found out something about one of her forebears having had a miscarriage. And she was very moved by that. And I was moved by them being moved. And lots of viewers obviously were very affected and interested and delighted and moved and curious and thinking, wow, Jeremy Paxman, he cries. Who would have thought? So I want to just draw your attention to what's important here. So if I could just be really cold-blooded and seemingly a bit unkind for a moment, there is no good reason why I should care that someone who died a long time ago, who lived in Glasgow, had a hard life. Like, why should I care? There's no good reason why I should care that someone in the First World War killed some Germans, which is what happened to J.K. Rowling's forebears. Like, why should I care? Lots of people killed Germans in the First World War. It was a thing. It's very regrettable, but why should I care? And why should I care that a woman a long time ago had a miscarriage? Really trying to be very dispassionate about it, there's no reason why I should care, but here's why I care. I care because I watch Paxman find out and he is moved, and I watch him and therefore I'm moved. I watched J.K. Rowling find out about her ancestor having to kill Germans or killing Germans, and she's moved, and so I see her and I'm moved. I watched Amelia Fox find out about her forebear and the miscarriage, and I think when she'd made her program, she was pregnant. So there's an extra kind of, oh, that's really a tough thing to have to hear. And I see her learning it, and the cameras are on her, and it's being recorded, so I'm moved. So the content itself, the fact of the miscarriage or the shooting Germans or the hard life in Glasgow, not very interesting. What makes it interesting is someone else being moved by it and reflecting on it. So then I want to watch. Recently, I had the opportunity to help somebody to bring back their emotional recollection of an important time and place in the past on the BBC Radio flagship programme Saturday Live. Now, I did this exercise very briefly with the broadcaster and gardener Dermot Gavin, and the outcome was very enjoyable. But for reasons best known to themselves, the producers wanted us to do the exercise while also decorating Easter eggs. Instead, I'm going to share with you something that I did more recently on a residential writing retreat. I wanted to demonstrate how much is still in everybody's mind if we only give ourselves a chance to find it. And so I looked around the room and I asked for a volunteer. And one brave woman agreed to show me around the room where she slept when she was a little girl. I asked her to ignore everyone else and just walk me around the room as if we were back in there. She pointed to the fireplace and said, "Don't touch." And she pointed to the kitchen table and said, "My father sat here and my mother over there and my sister on the other side." She pointed to the windows and said that in the street outside you could see the horse and cart, because this was another country many decades ago. At the bookshelf, I asked her to take down a book, an imaginary book, and she took one down, and I asked her to open it, and she opened it, and I said, "What does it say inside?" And she immediately said, "It's Hungarian poetry." And I said, "Can you read it?" And she said, "No, only my father read the poetry." And I asked her about him. And she said that her father used to dress very smartly to read them poetry in this one-room apartment where the whole family had been squeezed in by the communist authorities. He wore a bow tie, she said, not like most people. He was very respectable. I can tell you that the people watching were powerfully moved by the way that she talked about her father. Her feelings shone right through. And it was those feelings that made it interesting, because otherwise, who cares where she slept when she was a little girl? Now, you may be listening to this and thinking, "Oh dear, I don't want to share my feelings. That would make me feel really awkward." But if you don't share them at some level, then I'm afraid that people may well find your family stories a little bit boring. It's just the way that human beings are wired. We like stories in which people are moved. But to be perfectly clear, talking about your feelings doesn't have to be dark or upsetting. You saw that in the first video when I showed you a still photograph from my own family, and then I showed you the same photograph being looked at, and the background noise of laughter as the people in the photograph recognise themselves years later. So this kind of effect can be achieved very quickly and very easily, but it won't happen by itself, and you can't do this alone. You have to embark on some kind of shared family project with your relatives. So we've covered quite a lot of ground, and I don't want to overwhelm you, so I'm going to stop the teaching there. But I want to give you a word of warning. Many people ask me questions about how to have a conversation with family members that might bring up a lot of strong feelings. In fact, that can be so worrying that many people don't even start at all. And that's terrible, because they really regret it afterwards. This is the writer and adventurer Joe Simpson. You may have read his book Touching the Void or seen the very successful film that was made out of it. Joe's father was in Burma in the Second World War, and for many years Joe planned to speak to his father about his pretty horrific experiences out there. But as Joe told me in the interview from which this image is a still photo, he just couldn't quite bring himself to ask. And it was only after his father had died that Joe went to Burma and investigated the places that his father had been to, using his father's maps and books. And he told me afterwards it was a source of great regret to him that he had not done this while his father was alive. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to have those conversations in such a way that everyone is happy afterwards. And if you're very lucky, you might even get some kind of glimpse of Harriet, who I keep mentioning, but you haven't seen yet, have you? So tell me now, what's one action that you're going to take as a result of what you've learned so far? Leave me a comment in the box down below, telling me one thing that you're going to do to get started on your own family project. I read all the comments and I love to hear what you're going to get up to. And next time I'll share with you my ideas and a detailed plan for how you can have those conversations with family members. And there will be a downloadable guide, and I'm sure you're going to love it. I really enjoyed sharing this with you, and I hope that if you've enjoyed it, you will share it with other people too, because the more people do this, the better. So go ahead, leave me a comment down below. Till next time, bye.